Someday someone's gonna find out my biggest secret. I know they will. It's just a matter of time. You can look right at me and never even see it, 'cause I've perfected the art of seeming fine, even when I'm not. Someday someone's gonna figure out what I've been hiding. I know they will, 'cause I can't keep a straight face, and still no one will ever say I wasn't trying. I've worked damn hard for this epic fall from grace, just like I was taught. And so what if they do? So what if all of my worst fears come true? Sure, the sky might fall and the truth might turn to doubt, but it's time. Someone found me out. Someday someone's gonna realize I'm an imposter. I know they will. It's just a question of when they'll shake their heads and say, well, this is gonna cost her. They won't understand why I risked it all just to pretend that I was someone else. Someday someone's gonna find out that I've been faking. I know they will, 'cause I can't keep this up, and I'm the one whose heart I have been breaking. Who'd have thought that I was worthy of love? And so what if they do? So what if all of my worst fears come true? Sure, the sky might fall and the truth might turn to doubt, but it's time. Someone found me out.
Alice Wallace performing on Radio Bristol in the 3rd Street Coffeehouse in Roanoke from her new album, Here I Am, Imposter. Alice, tell me, is that song really about the imposter syndrome?
Oh, it definitely is.
Seriously?
It really is, yeah. And actually, I mean, it's something I've struggled with my whole life, but it really kind of came to a head as I was about to go into the studio to record this record with a bunch of, big-time Nashville session players, and I just felt like, I was just having all this anxiety of just like, could I hack it in the studio with them? And like, are they going to realize I have no idea what I'm doing? And that song just started kind of forming. So
I just thought it was one of those tongue-in-cheek things that I really know what I'm doing. And I believe you really know what you're doing. Now, tell me, is it true that you went into the studio in Nashville to record this new album, Here I Am, with no rehearsal?
Which is kind of the Nashville way to do it with those session guys. Like they don't want to hear the songs ahead of time because they're like, that's when the magic happens, is if we go in completely like no preconceived notions of like what the songs should be, what they, what they're going to end up as. And that's, the producer is this guy, Nick Buda, who is a big session drummer in town who's played with Martina McBride and Dolly Parton and all these people. He's in Kenny Chesney's band right now. And he kept reassuring me, he's like, this is how we love to do it. And this is what makes the best songs, is to go in with fresh ears and create the magic in the studio. But it was intense to imagine going into a studio with all these Grammy-winning musicians and producers who, and bring them my songs and see what they're going to do with them in the moment,
You make damn sure your guitar is in tune when you get there.
Yes, indeed. So, yeah, and of course it did go so well. And that's the thing about imposter syndrome is it really is just your brain messing with you. Like, of course it's like you go in and you're like, okay, I do know what I'm doing. But it is amazing how there's just like this little voice wants to tell you that maybe you're not as good as you think you are.
I think some of the magic you were talking about happened during the recording of this song. The studio version has the echoes of Floyd Kramer in that piano. Is that something that just happened?
Yeah, and I didn't really hear that. We didn't, in the studio, we didn't have pedal steel. And like in my head, it was going to be more of a pedal steel heavy song. And we did end up adding pedal steel afterwards. But since it wasn't in the studio, it was hard to imagine like what space that was going to fill. And so the guitar player ended up playing a B bender to kind of get that little bendy sound that we actually replaced with the pedal steel. There's like a little bit of the B bender in the background there. But then when it came to the solo, Nick, the producer, was like, I think this should be a piano solo. I think we need to it's somewhere between like maybe like a Floyd Kramer and like a Jackson Brown kind of like piano solo. And which I was like, I didn't hear it, but then when it was there, I was like, oh yeah, I love this. This is not like where you think the song is going to go for the solo. And so it was cool.
Talking with Alice Wallace on Radio Bristol. Her new album is Here I Am. She's performing songs from that record for us here in the 3rd Street Coffeehouse studio in Roanoke. I'm Luke Church. Alice, what I love about your music is that when you go in to record an album, you're not thinking, I'm going to make an Americana album. I'm going to make this type of album. You just do what the songs speak to you, and that leads to a very, non-homogeneous sound on your records.
Yeah, pretty much all of my records are like that. Like I've never been good at like sticking to like one lane. I like my record, like I love to sing bluesy things and folk and like lean into the country side of things and of course the yodeling and so like I love tapping into a little bit of everything. I mean, I think the fact that I grew up, probably my biggest influence was Linda Ronstadt, who sang basically everything under the sun. And I just love stretching out a little bit and just kind of dipping my toe into different genres. And then, of course, this band just killed it, like following me into all those different corners.
Alice Wallace on Radio Bristol. Her new album is Here I Am. And with that title, Alice, I wanted to ask, do you consider this to be your Nashville debut album?
It is, because early on when I moved to Nashville in 2019, and I did form a duo project called Side Pony, and we toured together for a couple of years. But this is my first solo record after moving to Nashville, and really put a lot of thought into these songs and them being partly about moving to Nashville. And of course I moved right before the world shut down, so there was a lot of self-reflection in those times when we couldn't leave the house for an awfully long time. And so yeah, this is Alice Wallace's Nashville debut, which has a lot to do with why I decided to call it Here I Am. Is just like this is me now, in a new version.
Well, one thing that hasn't changed is your honesty. I'd like to hear you perform another song from the new album, I Was Wrong. And with this song, I think it speaks to how you write, and you just lay everything out there.
I do. I know. I've always been someone who, for the most part, draws my songs from personal experience, and it is kind of a form of therapy for me, like processing things. And I've had a lot of heartbreak in the last few years, unfortunately, and the best thing for me is putting it in a song, and I always just hope that people will hear themselves in the song as well. And this is actually a song that is one of the rare ones where I just had my heart broken really good, possibly as bad as it ever has been. And I was in northern New Mexico, and I was where the Rio Grande cuts through in this gorge, and I just went out there to spend the day just kind of contemplating everything. And I just started singing this song into the air, and I wrote it in 10 minutes. Whereas sometimes I will, struggle with a song for a year before I feel like it's done. And this one was just it just kind of popped out fully formed. And I went back to my hotel and figured out what key it was in, and I had a song.
All right. Alice Wallace performing in the 3rd Street Coffeehouse studio, a song from her new album, Here I Am.
Maybe I never really believed you would love me. Maybe I never thought that you'd be the one. Maybe I always knew that you'd break me in two. But God, I hoped I was wrong. Maybe I never really trusted your touches the way you'd stop me just to say I was so beautiful. Maybe I always knew you were too good to be true. But God, I hoped I was wrong. And why do I always ignore that feeling? Oh, like I'm stepping right off of a cliff. As if the rocks down below won't hurt, but I know that one day I'll feel all of it. And I want it so bad to believe that I'd found him, the man I've seen every night in my dreams, the one I always knew would look just like you. But God, I was wrong.
Alice Wallace on Radio Bristol performing I Was Wrong from her new album Here I Am, here in the 3rd Street Coffeehouse studio in Roanoke. I'm Luke Church. Alice, I understand you originally from Southern California, and I can still hear a bit of that. I mean, you can take the girl out of Southern California, but you can't take Southern California out of the music.
Oh, for sure. There's always going to be a big influence of Southern California, and just I mean, because so much great music came from there, and it's funny actually. Like, I was born in Southern California, but actually grew up in Florida. But my mom is from LA, and so growing up, like, I was hearing all this, Graham Parsons and Linda Ronstadt, and like a lot of these artists who really helped, create the sound that came out of Southern California. And so that's kind of been in my veins since I first picked up a guitar. I mean, I grew up around a lot of music. Yeah, my dad was in a band, and growing up, my parents would be sitting in the living room singing Graham Parsons and Emmylou Harris duets, and I wanted to join in. And I picked up a guitar when I was a early teenager just because I wanted to join in on the sing-alongs. And so there was just a lot of music in my house growing up, and a lot of good music, which I'm very grateful for. And but then like in college, I started playing in bars and coffee shops and things. But I just always felt like, I need like a real job, and so it wasn't until I was about 30 that I quit my job, and I just decided like life was too short, and I had to figure out if I could make a living at this, because I was always, every job I had, I was just waiting till the weekend till I could pick up a guitar and sing or go play a gig or whatever. And so finally just took the plunge and actually moved back in with my parents for a long time in Southern California, while I figured out how to make money on the road. And I just started hitting the road. I just started touring, and now I've been touring full time for about 10 years, and moved to Nashville, 4.5 years ago, once I felt like I had enough of a fan base to support me. And it was pretty miraculous that, I moved there and 3 months later everything shut down and I couldn't go play gigs, but I just turned to live streams and my fans supported me through the whole pandemic, and it was a glorious thing to feel the support of everyone.
Alice Wallace on Radio Bristol. Her new album is Here I Am. We first met in Nashville several years ago at American Legion Post 82. There was an event there put on by Mule Kick Productions, the label that you were on. KP Hawthorne co-founded it, our mutual friend. And it was the Palomino Rides Again. And they had several people there that had performed at the original Palomino Club out in California, including Jim Lauderdale and many others. But you performed, and I heard you yodel. And that was it. Now, how'd you do that?
Well, so I got inspired to start yodeling I was actually in college, and I was a huge fan of Jewel. Like, her kind of heyday was when I was in high school, and I was picking up the guitar, and I was writing songs, and I just loved her voice so much. And so I was a huge fan of Jewel, and then like in college, Napster became a thing, and I got this like bootleg copy of her doing this insane yodeling song as an encore. I had never seen her live, but I heard this version of her doing this crazy yodel where she went faster and faster, and I was like, I have got to learn to do this. And so I went home for like a summer home from college, and I just locked myself in my bedroom for like 3 months with that song and just tried to figure out how to sing it. And I got kind of the basics in those first 3 months, but now I've been doing it for quite a few years, and it's gotten better over the years. And yeah, like that was the inspiration. But then after learning it from Jewel, then I would start to go back to like the old school yodelers, the Patsy Montana, and even Patsy Cline yodeled, and so many Carolina Cotton. Like yodeling was such a huge part of country music from like the 20s to the 50s. Just about every country singer yodeled. So then, like I've learned more and more about it. And actually now, since moving to Nashville, I've become friends with Ranger Doug of Riders in the Sky. I mean, I actually kind of sought him out. I went to a show and I'm like, hey, I'm a yodeler too. And he's such a nice guy. And we've been getting together and writing, and we might record a duet here soon.
Wow, that's fantastic. I was truly waiting for the story of how you were junior rodeo queen and you yodeled on horseback.
It was Jewel of all things, but hey, whatever gets you there. So
it's fantastic. Well, Alice Wallace, thank you so much for stopping by and sharing your music with us.
Thank you for having me and for helping get my new record in front of, or in more ears.
Well, let's close out with Bonfire from your new record, Here I Am, a song that you co-wrote with Melody Walker. We were talking earlier about her and just how she is just a force of nature.
She is. And yeah, I was saying, I met her years ago, at least 10 years ago, maybe more, in San Diego. We did a show together when she was just touring with her husband before she formed her band Front Country, and I immediately, like, from the first note out of her mouth, I was like, I am a fan of this woman. Her voice is one of my favorites, and now, we both found ourselves in Nashville. She moved there before I did, but we had never written a song together until we moved to Nashville, since that's what you do in Nashville is you co-write songs. So we finally got together to write a song together, and she is also a bit of a yodeler. She doesn't do it very often, but she can yodel, and so we thought if we were going to write a song together, it had to have a little bit of sneaky yodeling in there, and so we wrote this song Bonfire together.
Stealth yodeling, I love it.
Yeah.
Right.
Here we go. I used to think that just a spark could make you see your way to me, drifting hopeless in the dark, lost at sea, endlessly, as the salt burns down my cheeks. I'll be a bonfire, on fire for you. Ooh. sun sinks down beneath the sand, watch you slip through my hands. Golden embers smolder on while the waves welcome the dawn, wondering if you're really gone. I'll be up on fire, you. I'll be up on fire, you. Where were you sailing? Don't you know I'm still